When your identity is tied to your career, what happens when that career is over? Today's guest, Reggie Walker, talks us through his journey after time for the NFL. Reggie played linebacker for Kansas State, Arizona Cardinals, the San Diego Chargers, and the Denver Broncos. We talk with Reggie about what drew him towards football and how that perspective has changed since his retirement. Otis, Reggie, and I also talk about how to be a leader in a room full of high performers and why it's so important to understand your strengths so you know how to help the team the best you can. Reggie also talks us through what it was like breaking up with football and how he transitioned his skills to business. Why is it so important to teach others the lessons that we've learned? How is teaching others like being a linebacker in the NFL? And what happens when a hotshot college freshman tries to run over a 350-pound lineman? Well, Reggie, Otis, and I dive into all this and much more in this fun episode. Quick reminder, rate, review, and subscribe to the show wherever you're listening. You can also find the full videos of the show on our YouTube page. And if you learned something from Reggie, Otis, or me in our conversation, make sure to share this episode with someone else so they can learn it too. This episode is brought to you by Tribe and Purpose. The transition from college to that first career is a difficult one, and it's even harder when you lose your sense of identity. If you're an athlete who just hung up the cleats, it's hard to go from being a rugby player to being Joe in accounting. We created Next is Best to help retired college athletes use their skills to create an impact through entrepreneurship. Next is Best by Know Your Tribe will help to smoothen that rough transition by helping you establish a clear sense of purpose, an actionable path to success, and the tools you need to manage your life. Your 20s are a confusing and chaotic time. Next is Best gives you the tools you need to make sense of the chaos and make this next chapter of your life the best one yet. You can learn more about Next is Best by Know Your Tribe at findyourpurpose.coach. That's findyourpurpose.coach. Now here's Cam and Otis with the show.
Hey, welcome to the Cam and Otis Show. On this episode, good friend, buddy that we just discovered there was a lot more in common between us than we realized. Reggie Walker coming to us from Kansas, flatland, aren't you?
Super flat. Lots of stuff to do.
That's okay, because that way you can see him coming for you a lot sooner than I can.
100%.
Reggie, man, I want to jump into something I've been thinking about since we scheduled this, because I'm always fascinated by, for those of you who don't know Reggie played in the NFL for 6 years, 7 years, and it's a cutthroat business. And I'm always curious how you led, because you're one of those guys that just people migrate to, you lead. How you led in the NFL?
I'm the type of person that I have to observe things first before I move. Like I don't just dive into anything. Like I do not do that. But how I really understood my best way of leading was I would observe everyone, how they operated, what worked best for them. I would look at the examples that other coaches or other people would put out there, and then I molded myself to what benefited the person that I was trying to lead the best way, or the group that I was trying to lead the best way. Because as you may know, in an NFL locker room or a sports locker room, you have a lot of different personality types. And what's going to work with this person is not going to work with this person. And at the end of the day, you have a job that needs to get done. And, I never believed that, I like, the man with the hammer, everything's nailed. Like, I never took that mentality when it came to everything. I liked to have a lot of tools going into that environment.
So that's great. Did you, I'm going to grab the fact that your mom and dad were both in the Army. Did you get some of that from mom and dad?
Yeah. My dad, he taught me going into sports, and I thought it was probably one of the best things that I could have ever been taught, was to learn how a system operates, not by what you're really necessarily told, but what you can see and hear and feel and touch yourself. And that really saved my ass a lot of times when it came to sports. Because how you'll see in a lot of these environments, they'll tell you, this is how things get done, this is how we do things, but then if you look with your own eyes, you can see it's done a lot differently. That really saved me in a lot of ways.
So one thing that I'm really curious about, this might be a misperception on my part, because I'll say this before my dad makes fun of me for it. I had a very short football career because I was a receiver and I broke my thumb and didn't play the whole season, and I found rugby right afterwards. So don't have much personal experience with football, we would say. But, you talking about this perspective and analyzing the systems and all of that, it seems like that clashes a lot with what I would think of from your position of linebacker. Because it seems like a lot more, like you said, you're the hammer, everything else is a nail type of a mentality there. Was that something that you had to square the two? Like, let me ask it this way. Did you have trouble being the hammer when you needed to because you wanted to analyze it? Was that an issue you went through?
Oh no. It wasn't because the thing was, I look at it like, that the Colt from the Hulk. Like, people ask like, why am I like, how do you like transform so quickly? He was like, because I'm always a little angry. And that's the thing was, I was always trying to hit someone. That was like my thing. Like, I love banging. I love banging around. But I also understood that, especially in your younger days when you're just out there just trying to fly around and you're hitting everything that is walking, it's good and it's bad. Because one, it hurts after a while, and then you can't hit everybody. You learn that, like, you ain't gonna strike everybody like that. Plus, two, you start missing tackles, you start missing plays. Then you start understanding you need to take a step back and kind of go about things a little smarter. Plus, with professional football, one of the big things that they tell you is you can't make the team in the locker room, in the training room. You have to, in a sport where it's a 100% injury rate, figure out how to not get hurt. So you start trying to take a step back and trying to go smart about your business so you can actually make it through the entire season, which was luckily something that I got to do a lot. I definitely missed some games, but I definitely played more than I missed.
Was there a learning moment for that specifically? One thing that I think I've told this story before on the podcast, Dad. I'm not totally sure, but I remember when I first came to U of A to play college rugby, I had this moment where my first scrimmage, I just got absolutely laid out by somebody when I was running the ball, and I was like, oh, that's not my job anymore. I got to go do a different job. Is that kind of where that came from, where it's like you were trying to make all of those plays, and it was when you made that jump to the next level that you were like, hold up, I'm tiring myself out way too much. I'm putting in too much work where I need to take these reps off and find the smarter plays. When did that happen, and what was that like? Was that the jump to Kansas State, or was that with the jump to the NFL?
Oh, it was definitely at Kansas State, and it was definitely when I was a true freshman, and I remember the exact moment too. So we're playing Texas Tech, and their line on average was 6'6", 345. Everybody was like 6'6", 345 across the board. And I'm 18 years old. I didn't really lift weights in high school, so I'm not the biggest guy. I'm not the strongest guy, but I like banging. And you're in high school, you can just run through everybody, right? But they had this guy, and I always remember him. His name was Taco. And they did a zone play up to me. I ran into him full speed, like super dangerous, led with my helmet and everything. Tried to hit him in his chest, and it was literally like I run full speed into him, and he does not stop. He just ate the whole thing up, and then to make it worse, he got his hands under my armpits, which was like the worst position you could be if someone's trying to block you. He gets his hands in, picks me up off the ground, and then just shakes me. And I was trying to bat his arms down. It wasn't working. Like, he just shook me for a while, and he could have done anything he wanted to at that point, but he shook me. The guy ran through my hole. It was a 2-point conversion. And then to top it off, he just set me down and didn't even talk shit. He didn't say anything. He just jogged back like I was nothing. And that was like in the first quarter.
My gosh.
So you could only imagine, 18 years old, I was shook. I was like, oh my gosh. Like, what am I going to do? Like, and then a linebacker, luckily a guy named Brandon Archer came to me, and he was just like, I told you, don't be running into people like that. That's stupid, man. That is dumb. Don't do that. You're an idiot. You deserve all of that. So ever since then, I was like, let me take a step back and be a little bit more tactical about what I'm doing.
That's such a life-changing moment, because you think about it. That old adage of, big fish, little pond. In high school, you were big fish, little pond. You step into your first game in college, high school. I was trying not to say college rugby, college football. There we go. Right sport, right level. And all of a sudden, you're no longer the big fish in the little pond. Since jumping into the business world, retiring from the game, What have you had that shock? My mind wants to say shockaroonie for some reason, but that just shock to your system where, holy crap, I'm no longer a big fish in a little pond. How do I survive with all these other big fish around
Oh
me?
yeah, definitely. I would say when so I wrote a book and I wrote a course, right? But
Hmm.
so I tried to do everything myself at first. Initially, like I think it was like going on like 7 years ago. I tried to do everything myself, failed miserably. I didn't really understand. Like I think the mentality I had, I was too big for my britches, you could say. Like I thought I could do all these things because I played football. I can do A, B, C, D, and E. I don't need any help. I don't need anyone else. And then I failed miserably. Couldn't get it up. Burnt myself out something serious to the point where I didn't even pick the book and the course up for like 3 years after that. Like I couldn't even look at it.
Wow.
And then I got to a point where I was just like, I spent 3 years writing this thing. Like, let me actually try it again. But then this time, let me actually ask for help this time. Like, I realized I can't do everything myself. I just kind of went back into the mentality that actually got me successful in the first place, which is I stay in my lane. I have my lane. I'm really good at my lane. I need to get a team around me who are really good in their lanes, and we'll come together and we'll build something amazing. And that's when I brought in David, and then Dan and Chase, and then we've been had help from like Jason, and then it's been great ever since. But that really it humbled the hell out of me. Oh yeah, it humbled me to the point I couldn't look at it. I couldn't even look at it. I felt like so like I failed so miserably, but I needed that to happen. I absolutely needed it to happen.
How did you get back to your old mentality? Because that's one thing we talk a lot, whether it's in military or sports, we talk a lot of transition. And usually when you make that transition and you try to use your old skill set and you go in and you do it the hard way, and then when it doesn't work, that failure, it can kind of bleed into that old mindset in a lot of ways where it's like, hey, I can't be that guy anymore. I'm not that guy anymore. And that can be just as much of a dangerous place because you need that energy, right? That's part of your talents. So how did you get back to that mentality where you could recognize the good things there and then also be like, hey, I still got room to grow and I still got, things to improve on in other areas?
Well, I had to realize first and foremost that I was biting off way more than I could chew. I wanted to challenge the world and do all these things, but the thing that I had really gotten away from myself and why I was good at what I was doing. And just like I said, I was good at in my lane, in my area of things, I'm really excellent. In other areas, I'm really bad. Like, and that's just what it is. That's Reggie. Like, that's what it is. You suck at this, you suck at that, you suck at that. You're really good at this. So, and then the thing that I knew I was really good at was, working with others. I'm really good at working with others. And then even when it comes down to it, it's better just to work with other people. Like, when we hit these milestones, it's not just me. It's like we're all did it. We're all doing this. I had to get back to that mentality, and I had to realize that I had went astray from that, wanting to just do everything myself for some reason. I think it was the mentality of just sports, and I was always on a team sport that you wanted to see what you could do by yourself. Um, but I'm glad that happened as well. But it shook me back because I got a chance to like really observe those 3 years what went wrong and why it went wrong objectively. And once I did that, I just went back to what I knew, back to where I was, and then started building like teammates around me.
Did you have trouble getting to the objective point? Like, because, and what I mean is removing the emotion from that, because that could be a really difficult thing too.
No, I would say no. I've always been really objective. I was taught that from my dad at a really young age, like being able to like step back and take a look at things for what they are, and then it's really like a skill set that I feel that it's like a muscle that gets built over the years of doing it so often, because that was something you had to do for football because you're in a lot of really crazy environments and you have to be able to take your own emotions out of it, or it's dangerous because it'll blind you to reality. And then when you're in a reality in which A lot of people, some people are telling you the truth. Some people are flat out lying to you. Some people are telling you a mix of things. You have to be able to look at the picture for what it is and not lie to yourself about that, because then you can get, how some of these guys are, the big egos, thinking they're good at amazing all these things, and you're only good at this one thing, and then once the rug gets pulled out from under you, then what's left? And I knew from a really young age I didn't want that to happen to me. So I was always really good at looking at things objectively.
I find this really interesting, and partly because, and you and I have had this conversation before, how similar your transition was leaving football to mine leaving the Army. And you said something I thought was really interesting, and I want to do a parallel check, if you will, and that's the fact that when you're done with the game, you went from this, your whole life you've been a team guy, to saying, nope, I got this. I can do all this by myself. And I find that really ironic. Was that kind of what it was? Thank you and I'll use the term that I always use. I say, thank you very much, Army. I'm out.
Yep.
Don't need you anymore. Did you kind of do that? Thank you very much. Football, teamwork, all that stuff.
That was the biggest reason why I failed. that was the biggest reason. Yeah, I couldn't. I don't know. That's why I say I was just too big for my britches. I was like, I can do all these things. I can do all this stuff. And I blinded myself to the reality in which, like, no, dude, you're limited, man. Like, you're limited. And it's okay. We're all limited. Even the smartest of us are limited. Like, you're a human being. And you've always been good on a team. You know how to work in teams. Like, it's business. It's better if you work with a team. And I had to learn the hard way. And that's the thing about, a lot of stuff that I've done. I succeeded because I was hard-headed, and I failed because I was hard-headed.
That's right. It's a double-edged sword, isn't it?
Really is.
So I want to, you mentioned something earlier about when I was talking about leadership, observing your coaches. What's that a lesson, if you will, from a coach, whatever coach it was, whatever level, that's is still like your go-to thing?
Oh man, big one. If you want things to change, you must change. If you want things to change, you must change. It's the biggest one. I live by that. Live by it. And everybody that I know that was on that team with me, they all live by it too. This is real. When it comes down to any situation that you have in your life, if you want things to change in that situation, then you must change yourself. And if you don't, then don't complain, because it's your fault. Like taking that radical accountability over your own life. That's what we really learn from that, and that's why I know a lot of guys who are in that locker room are living successful lives or are in great places now because of it.
How do you not beat yourself up over that? Because when you talk about that, like, radical ownership there, that's what that opens up to you. And I know I've done this in rugby. Shoot, I do it as a coach still, and I'm sure you did the same thing, Reggie and Dad, when you were playing even your old boys rugby game, where it's like when something goes wrong, like, I'll just use rugby as the easier example because there's more people on the field, so it sounds crazier. But there's 30 people on the field. Something goes wrong, it's still my fault. Even if I'm the coach now, I'm the 31st person, 32nd person, it's still my fault because of that radical ownership. And that's a really good thing because it opens you up to growth and all those good things that you're talking about, Reggie. But it also opens you up to that really, really negative, nasty side of it. So how did you deal with that?
Oh man, I was my own worst critic. That was like, the thing was, I've had some really tough coaches. Some really good ones too, but some really, really tough coaches. But as bad as they were, they could never top like what was going on internally as far as like how, like, my standard for myself. It helped me to raise the standard for myself. They're not gonna, like, whatever they're saying, it was just like burp, 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 because in my head, like, I'm screaming to myself like, dude, what the hell? But with football though, in sports, it's just like life. You got to have a next play mentality, because the thing is football, like, the craziness of it is you could go out there and miss a tackle or drop an interception or do something crazy, but then there's always a next play, and there's no telling what could happen on the next play. Um, a great example of this was like Troy Polamalu, right? He would do some of the crazy, bad, worst stuff you would ever see in a game, but he had that next play mentality, and then he would go and do the most phenomenal thing you've ever seen in your life, like right later in the game. But you learn after a period of time that if I keep criticizing myself and I keep being down on myself, after a while, I'm going to miss that play. I'm going to miss that chance. And I wasn't trying to miss any chances. So I constantly worked on that skill, just being able to let it go. And then after the game, I'd go punch a locker or something. Yeah.
That's definitely a technique.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of and one of the rugby greats that we were fortunate enough when we found the game we were watching him play was Richie McCaw, and there's a really interesting thing there with his specific skill set of the poaching of the rugby ball, and it is such a gray area. Like rugby is full of gray areas. All sports are. That specific area, even as a coach, sometimes I'll watch a play and it'll be something I'm like, yeah, I guess the ref called it. Like, there's not much I could do. It's such a gray area of it. But I think what you're touching on is such an important thing. What made him so great is that he was able to get past that gray area, know that he was going to be wrong just as much as he might be right, and still continue to make that play over and over again. Dad, you and I both know the Super 15 championship that they lost because he went for the poach and he got called. Terrible call. We can, play the clip. Didn't know that. But
you haven't gotten over that yet?
Oh, no, I'm still not over it. But if you, it's so interesting though, because if he let that eat at him, then they wouldn't have won that next World Cup because he kept going and kept doing that same play. And that gray area aspect is so true for life as well. That when you have that skill set, I think you've got to trust yourself, because even if you get it wrong, that's still your skill set. If you go try to completely reshape your game, whether it's football, rugby, life, whatever it is, if you try to reshape your game because of one loss, you're screwed. You got to play to your strengths still and make sure you're still using those. And with that, Reggie, how did you... We already talked about finding that mentality again. How did you apply the strengths that you had in that mentality? And I'm asking it again because I want kind of a specific of what did you do that was that hard-headedness, that was the hard work, the teamwork, those aspects.
Banging. That's what it was.
Come on.
No, so the thing that I knew that I'm really great at is I'm a great observer. Little things to me are big things. Like I'm really good. I study people. I study how people interact. I study how things work, like systems operate. And then I'm good at like helping others, like being able to like teach others that. Like I'm really exceptional at that. Because that's how I've always gone about things. I've always been pretty hyper vigilant, you could say, when it comes down to just everything around me. Like I've always been very hyper vigilant, and I've always understood little things. And I'm really good at like teaching other people that and getting people on the same page. As far as like when it comes down to just managing the whole situation, because I also have an excellent memory, so it's one of those things where I can remember a lot, and I can remember how things fit, how things played out, and then how things can actually work out in the end, like putting a plan together. My thing that I'm not good at is staying on topic. Like that is my thing. Like I'll still stretch myself thin, but I'm really good. I'm good at like conveying my message to other people. Like this is my faults. I've always been really good at being able to know what I'm good at and what I'm bad at, and if I'm dealing with other people, like this is how you can help me. Like very like real. This is like David knows. Like, hey man, if we got to do something at this time, like you probably should just hit me up. Like or like, hey, sometimes if something bad happens, you might need to give me a kick in the pants. Sometimes I might get a little down on myself. Like he knows how to do that with me, and the same way I know how to like operate around him. Like I'm good at managing. Like that's my thing. I'm really good at managing the whole big picture of things. That's where I should stay. Just like in our group, like the architect, like that's what I'm good at, is being that and staying in that lane. And I know that I need like generals around me for that to happen. So that's what I do. I help put generals around me to help me out with that. Because I'm the creative thinker. I'm the creative guy. That's what I'm going to do. And plus, the other part of it, I know that I won't quit. No matter what bad happens, no matter how I'm feeling, no matter how sick I am, no matter how tired I am, no matter how much failure or how hard a task is, I will keep doing it until I finish it. And sometimes it might take me a year, it might take me 2 years, 3 years, but I'm going to keep doing it. And I know that that resilience that rubs off on people too, especially when you're trying to like lead others. So I would say that's where I probably am.
Hey, thanks for listening to this episode of the Cam and Otis Show. If you're enjoying this conversation, then make sure to share it with other lifelong learners in your life. Stay up to date with the show on Facebook and Instagram at Cam and Otis Show, and subscribe to our channel on YouTube so you're the first to hear about new episodes and other special content. Now let's get back to the show.
With that,
One area that is, I think, the most fascinating area for me when it comes to coaching by being, coaching athletes in general, is how much of these certain skills are kind of, I guess, endemic to a position. Like one example, and Dad, you and I have talked about this, was one of my best friends I played with, he coached us, was Liam. And both of us were chatterboxes on the field. We both played goalie in soccer. And I always thought that was a really interesting connection there. Do you think that what you're talking about there, Reggie, being able to see the field and kind of direct the traffic, know your position, do you think that goes back to what you had to learn in the position of linebacker? Or do you think it was more, more just personal upbringing, those type of things?
Yeah, it's definitely
a mix, probably,
because
yeah.
I was a middle linebacker, and you're basically the quarterback of the defense. And the thing is, you understand after a while that if the defensive line doesn't do their job, and the other linebackers don't do their job, and the safeties in the corners don't do their job, I'm not going to be able to make a play. So in order for that to happen, I need to make sure you're all lined up. You guys know everything that's going on. You guys got all the signals going on behind me. You guys are in the right spot. And I know, too, especially how we're going to get attacked. And I can convey that to everyone else around. Or if when something is happening, somebody's getting beat, I got to be able to, like, hey, man, like, just do this. And I'll come over and cover you quickly. Just, do this, and I will be there to save you. It all played into each other. And I think that was a big reason why I was such an effective linebacker, too. It was a bit of both. So when playing linebacker, middle linebacker, was just such a natural fit for me.
I want to jump into something just popped into my head that is so, I think the parallels again, but is the planning aspect. Because what do we do in football, right? You've got your game plan. So you got this is how we're going to play 60 minutes. And then you've got the quarters, you make the adjustments, but then you got the plays that you call and whatever that may be. But then real life happens and you got to adjust. How did you make decisions in those moments where it's like, I got to do it in this, you got a split second because I mean, that dude's fast.
Yeah.
Right. So you got to make that split second decision. How did you set yourself up for success in
You don't
that?
hesitate. You plain and simple, you do not hesitate. If you see it, you go. You see it, you go. And it's not that's the difference between like somebody who's an average player and an excellent player is when they saw it, they went. Plus two, anticipation. Like you see certain formations or you see certain down and distances, you got to know how you're going to get attacked. Like this is what's going to happen. Like a big chance of that happening. And if you see it, you fly. You don't even think. And then it's like there's a big saying that they say, like, if you're going to mess up going 100%. And it's still, even with that, when you fly, you're going to mess up. It's inevitable. You are going to make a mistake. You're going to miss a tackle. You're going to read a play wrong. It's going to happen. But the thing is, you don't hesitate either way. Like, that's the thing. And I think that's the big thing, too, about, like, life is really not hesitating. When you see those openings, like, you hit them.
And that's what I was going to ask. Good segue for me. Thanks for setting me up on that one. Because I want to see how have you taken that split-second decision, hitting it as hard as you can. I'm going this way, and I'm going to go this way as hard as I can. How have you taken that and translated that into
Oh,
business?
because just like in business, you have to create a lot of opportunities for yourself, and that's the same thing with sports. You can know the down and distance, you can know the formations, you can know how you're going to get attacked. But the thing is, too, you still have to go and make the play. You still got to go and make it happen. And something that David and I always tell each other is like, shoot the J, always shoot the J, always shoot the J, shoot the J. Like if you see it, if you're in those conversations, something gets brought up, you say it. Like you don't hesitate. There is no hesitating. There is no like, oh man, we'll talk to you tomorrow. There might not be it tomorrow. You might not get another chance. Like as soon as you hear it, you see it, you do it every single time, and then let the chips fall where they may. And the thing is too about it is really getting yourself in that habit of doing it. Because at first I was hesitant, I was like doubting myself, thinking about all this stuff. But you got to get yourself in a habit, and we repeat that to each other every single day, all the time. Shoot the J, shoot the J, shoot the J, shoot the J. Don't hesitate, don't hesitate. Hit it, hit it, hit it, hit it. And I think that's what really has helped out. Like you're on the phone with somebody and they can create an opportunity, they have something that you need, or you have a way that they can help you or you can help them, you do it right then and there. You do it right then and there. You say it right then and there. You don't wait. Because again, you never know if that opportunity is going to present itself again. So like life, you got to shoot these J's.
I'm gonna play devil's advocate on this because, well, first off, I want to confirm again, because I'm the old guy in the room. Shooting the J,
Yeah.
the jump shot, right? Okay, all right. See, I'm not that far disconnected. But here's my devil's advocate for you on that phrase. I'm gonna call out David
Okay.
on this one too. Uh, but if I'm shooting the J in a game, basketball game, that's my value is 2 points, possibly three, right? If I miss, all I got to do is run back and play
Mm.
defense. So, am I really? And again, this is me playing the devil's advocate on this, having some fun with you. Am I really committing? You know, I was actually even thinking the lazy basketball player getting up and maybe just shoot, so I ain't got to run as far back to get on
Oh
defense.
yeah. No, no, I understand what you're saying. I
But
understand what you're saying. So
yeah,
no, you are, because the thing is, how we always visualize it. It's that last second shot, the last second shot. And, you're
mm,
open. You see it's open. You see it's free. You can do it. Uh,
the Michael Jordan winning the
yeah, that's
championship
how we
sort of
that's how we
shot, right?
visualize it.
Yeah.
Not just
Okay.
like, oh,
All
we're
right.
playing the whole game. No, it's that last second shot. Like you gonna take it or not. You're gonna be the hero or not. Like better to shoot it and miss than shoot it than not even shoot it at all. And that's how the mentality we have with it.
And I think one thing I'd add to that is even in to go back to the metaphor where it's not the last second shot is you still have, like you're saying, next play, best play, and that's an important thing to think too. In business, this is the opportunity. It's right there. But you get to play them
Yeah,
again
straight up.
next game. You know what I mean? You get to play them again tomorrow, type of thing. Where it's like you get another chance. Like even if it's the last play, even if it's not, it's like you could still take that opportunity when it's in front of you, and then you can keep moving there. Because, like you're saying, Dad, if you take the jump shot and you miss it, you can get back on defense, or you can get that block and you can go get another opportunity. Or you can feel sorry for yourself and just sit there and worry about that. But I think that's where that next
Oh
play,
yeah,
best
hundred
play comes
percent.
in more.
And that is very true. Because it's just you take a phone call or you're in a meeting and you want to say something or you want to do something, you want to attack something, and then that self doubt like comes in. Like, could I say this the right way? Am I good enough for this? Is this even a smart idea? Is this even something that can even work? But you don't know it unless you try it. And then at the end of the day, just like in business, if it didn't work, it didn't work. Like there's how many billions of people out here? There's like lots of opportunity. Like if it didn't work, it didn't work. But at least you shot it and saw, and for sure but it's a game of constantly defeating that self doubt that you're always trying to play it yourself and you can't let it win. That's the big thing.
I want to go back a little bit, kind of back to the origin story a little bit here. What was it that drove you towards
I
football in
just
the
saw it
first
and
place?
loved it. It was that I saw it on TV and I loved it immediately. It seemed like I remember. I think I was like 4, and that's when like it was like one of my earliest memories. And you see these big guys on TV just running towards each other, and you're like, man, this is cool. Like, what is this? Like, this is amazing. And you see all these gladiators, and then I remember asking my dad, like what, like is this something I could do too? He's like, oh yeah, son, you could definitely do this. And I was like, I could do that. And it just like the like light bulb went off, like boop. Like I have to do that. If I could do that, I'm doing that. Like that was the coolest thing I could ever like think of. Yeah.
So, so what was it then after you actually got in? So maybe the first game, because I had a very similar experience. When I fell in love with rugby was we were living in Germany, and he took us to go see the Rugby World Cup, and I saw U.S. play Samoa, and I didn't know anything that was happening there, but I had the same type of reaction. Where I was like, these are some big
Yeah.
guys. They run at each other. It looks like fun.
Yeah.
So what was it once you were actually in the game that kind of took that
Oh,
love to
so
the
I
next
started
level?
off playing flag football, and I was really good. I was like, all I remember about flag football is every time I touched the ball, I scored. That's all I remember. And I remember driving home one day, and somebody on the radio they said, yeah, hey, you guys keep your eyes on Reggie Walker. He's going to put Boonville on the map one day. And I was like, what? Because, I was like, I don't know, 6 or 7 or 8 or something. So like you were on the radio, you're like, oh my
Wow.
gosh, like it blew my whole mind. And I was like, yeah, this is definitely something I want to do for like ever.
Mhm.
I,
So when, sorry, Dan, I got my follow up there.
all
I'm
right.
building. So with that and that love and the energy and all those type of things, how did you deal with it when you had to move away from the sport? Because
Oh,
that's what I'm really getting at. Is that love that was there? You got your heart broken, man. So what
oh
was
yeah,
that like then?
yeah, that's a good way of putting it. It is like moving on from a relationship because you had so many of these great times, these bad times with this entity with football. But they told me, the veterans told me when I first got in there, there's going to come a day where you're going to know it's your time. And I was like, yeah, right. I'm gonna play this like 20 years. Like, yeah, right. I'm never gonna get tired of this. And sure enough, that day came. I still remember it. I was hurt in San Diego. I was kind of trying to come back from this injury. I got into meditating, so I sat down one day and just meditated, and the thought popped up, why am I still doing this? Because I really did like an inventory, a self inventory. I was like, man, I'm hurt, I'm
Mhm.
tired, I'm really exhausted, I feel so beat up, I'm not having fun with this anymore. I'm just tired of it. I just really want to try something else, and like a lot of their motivation for doing it was gone at this point. There was no like, oh, I'm proving this people who that said all these naysayers that I am who I told you I was, or like I accomplished pretty much everything I wanted to accomplish on the football field. It just wasn't there. And then I drove home that day, ate dinner, hung out with the kids, went to sleep, woke up, and then the whole desire to play football was gone. Like it was gone. It literally, I slept it away.
Mhm.
And then at that point, is I still played. I still had to get through the rest of that season, and then I did a training camp with the Broncos afterwards just to make sure that I was done. And oh, I was done. I was so done. It was scary. It was scary at that point.
Could Could you feel that difference? Because I've heard this phrase before, and just like you, I didn't know what it
Yeah.
meant until that moment came, which was as soon as you think about
Yeah.
retiring, you're done, and it's because you lose that step, you lose that
Oh,
mentality. Did you
100%. Like
experience
football
that?
is something that you gotta put both feet in the water at this. You cannot be 1 foot in, 1 foot out. It is dangerous if you're doing that. And I did that for a while, and oh, it was dangerous. Plus, not to mention, you're older, your body's breaking down. you're feeling the hits a lot more. You're not young anymore. You can just bounce around and hit people, and you're not feeling anything. Like I felt every single hit. I remember in Denver, and that was the year they went to the Super Bowl too. They would do powers. We're like all day. All you're doing is taking on fullbacks, taking on these guards, full spots, full speed every single day. And I remember coming home and telling my wife, like, dude, I don't think I got this anymore, bro. Like, I don't want any parts of none of these guys no more. I didn't care about running through anybody anymore. Like, all the things that you really loved about football, you just got over it. Like, you just get over it. And that's it's funny too because that was something too. Even when I did retire, it was at first like you kind of feel that little heartache because it's something you thought you were going to be doing for a long time, realized you couldn't do it, you had to get out, and then I transitioned and I did basically everything that I wanted to do. um, my whole thing was like, man, I want to sit on a couch every day, play the game, watch mini videos as one. I want to eat Taco Bell whenever I want. Like, and then you just get to a point where you just get tired of it. And like, I was like, man, I remember I would come home and turn the PlayStation on and get like physically sick because you just got so over it. And I was like, dang, you really can get over anything. Like, everything has a time limit. So it was a good lesson to learn, but it just opens up that doorway for new things, which I'm always here for now at this point.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I was just thinking, one of my favorite phrases, pain is a powerful teacher. And, it started switching your mind in that balance of pain and reward, and the pain started to be more, and it helped change the whole attitude. Uh,
With that, Dad, before you ask the question, I was gonna say I had this conversation with, again, guys. I played rugby with Liam and Seth. We were having this conversation when I was up there last time, talking about professional, and it's the same type of thing you were saying, Reggie, with running that fullback over and over again. We kind of had this conversation where it's like, could you ignore the injuries, you back all these different things, like, can you physically wrap your head around the fact that you're going to go run full speed into another 6'5", 220-pound man over and over again for a living every single day? And it's like, it's so funny because for so long, you're like, yeah, it's fun. And people go to me when I was playing rugby, they're like, oh, that's a tough sport. I'm like, yeah, it's not. It's not that tough. And then as soon as you're out of it, you're like, damn, that was tough. Because that's what you're saying. That pain all of a sudden is so much more real. When you're in it, it doesn't feel that real. And then as soon as you're out, you're like, gosh, that pain is crazy.
Yeah, I couldn't even, because that was my thing. I was a banger. I loved hitting. Like, that was my thing. I remember even on kickoff return, that was like one of the things I was exceptional at. I would like, so you got a guy running full speed at you, and then you have to block him. He can go all types of ways, and he's running full speed at you. And this is these are big dudes running full speed at you. And I was good at not only just blocking the person, but like knocking them off their feet. Like, I would hit them right here, and I would deck dudes. Then they'd see me coming, and they're running at me full speed, and I'm fully stopped. And I was good at just knocking dudes completely off their feet. And I remember loving that. I remember I had to block this D tackle. This guy was 6'5", 310 pounds. And I had to block him, and I decked him. And I was thinking yeah, that was great. And now every time I think about that, I was like, man, I think that's why my neck hurts right here. Like, that's all you remember now.
Yeah, I've got a couple of those memories too, where I remember hitting the ground pretty hard on a jump, and that's probably why my back's hurt.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. So Reggie, I want to shift gears, man, to what was the, I'll just call it the catalyst. What the hell were you thinking when you decided to write a book and then create a course? Because the course is based on, or I don't know if it's based on the book. I don't know if that's the right word to use. What the hell were you thinking when you decided to do that?
So, in college, I never started more than half a season. And then I came into the NFL undrafted. I played 7 years, and I had the whole career that I wanted to have. I did everything that I wanted to do on a football field, and then I retired on my own. They didn't kick me out. I'd left on my own. And when I was sitting in retirement, one of the things that you see is there's so many people that fail to do that, because just like I said, I understood going into the environment, like I had a skill set already that my dad taught me, where it's like, understand how systems operate, understand how people operate, understand how you operate in relation to everything else around you. The world doesn't revolve around you. You're going into a system. You need to know how it works. Um, and when I look back at my whole career, all I remember is just seeing so many people fail. I came into college with 27 guys. I think 4 of us finished school. I came into
Wow.
NFL with
Wow.
14 guys. By my 3rd year, it was only 2 of us looking back at each other. And that's all you see. But then you see it across all sports, and then you realize that this is actually something that can be taught. It's not as much of chance as you think, because college football, talent. When it comes to talent, everybody's talented. Everybody has a skill set. When it comes to professional, everybody's
Mhm.
talented. Everyone has a skill set. It's just how they operate in this system is what sets them apart. Their habits, uh, like their professionalism. These things can be taught, and I wanted to help more people
Mhm.
actually succeed and go through this like I did, and get everything they wanted out of it more than what I have seen. So that's when I sat down and was just like, I want to do something to help. I want less stories of people committing suicide, people doing some of these crazy things that I've seen people do. And so I sat down and wrote a book. And then while I was writing the book, I realized that I need to go into further detail. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to write a course. And I did it both at the same time, which I highly recommend no one ever do, because I wrote it and I did not make an outline. So I was just writing it as I went. I saw a YouTube video at 3 o'clock in the morning that said, if you want to do something, you should start right here and there. And I just started writing. And so write an outline first if you're going to do this. And do not write a book and a course at the same time. That was awful. Horrible experience. But, um,
There's a lesson there. There's a lesson in the go and attack it full force, but you might want to see which way you're
yes,
attacking
yes.
first,
Oh
right?
my gosh. I could have saved myself. That's why it took 3 years. If I would have, man. Oh my gosh. Looking back at it now, it was just like, that was just, man, dude. But I was told you I was hard headed. I had to do it. I'm hard headed. I had to just do it. And but I did it because I wanted to help. And I knew that these kids needed to have that perspective of somebody who's actually done it and been there, done that. I knew that how important it was, because I knew that I never had it. I knew that most of the players that are going to come up, whether football, sports, whatever, they're not going to get it. So I wanted to create a whole system where people can get that knowledge from someone that's done it, and that's what we did.
That's great. I mean, it's again, I hate to keep doing that, going back on this, but it's so true. Uh, one of my passions is giving back to my veteran tribe, and that's exactly what you're doing. Is these kids, and I get to call them that, and
Yeah.
you call them that now too, because you've hit that stage of life, whether
Oh,
you
I'm
admit it
there.
or not. But they're kids, they're kids, and helping them have that success that they.
All right. Thank y'all for listening to the Cam and Otis Show, and a special thanks to our guest, Reggie Walker, for joining us today.
Yeah, 100%.
If you enjoyed
Definitely.
today's episode, make sure to pass along to someone else so they can enjoy it too. Make sure to follow the Cam and Otis Show on Facebook and Instagram, and you can watch full videos of the show on YouTube. While you're there, make sure you hit that subscribe button as well. And as always, the full archive of our episodes is available at www.camandotisshow.com. Thanks again, and we'll see y'all
All right.
next time.
Happy New Year too to you guys. Have a great one.